Hi, Terry here again. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the length of crops, how long it takes for a crop to become ripened, to go to full maturity. I've been thinking about that a little bit on the last week or two. I remember growing up on the farm, I'd go along with my dad to buy seed corn in the spring and had to choose between different lengths. You could get like 90-day seed corn, a little bit shorter, longer. Had to decide, kind of a guessing game. Would it be a cold spring and hot summer, or a little bit cooler summer? How long would it take? And the other, so it was just deciding what length crop we would want for corn. And the other was watching a garden. When my wife and I lived in Southwest Michigan, about 10 to 20 years ago, around the corner there was this amazing gardener. He'd had a garden in the same place year after year after year. And I remember walking past that garden regularly and watching the early season crops, like sweet peas would be earlier, and then sweet corn would be later on, as well as pumpkins and so on. So it was different lengths to reach full ripened maturity. And I've been thinking about that analogy for crops in our life, that there are some earlier crops that maybe ripen in, say, our 20s. There's certain things that we can do, ways of thinking, and maybe it's raising a family, being ready for that, or for launching into a career. And then as we go later on, maybe things ripen in our life that make it more appropriate for us to be leaders in different areas. And then I think about those longer term crops. And I wonder, what are the crops that take 50, 60, 70 plus years to ripen? What in us is a very long seasoned crop? Certain types of wisdom, maybe dealing with more complexity in our life, being less prone, as seems in our country so often, to take one extreme side or the other extreme side, or deciding somebody who disagrees with us is an enemy somehow that needs to be defeated. What are the long-term crops in your life? And for me, that's an important question for a couple of reasons. One is, I sometimes think back to when I was serving in churches in my 30s and 40s, and I think back and say, oh, I wish that I had done that better, or I had been softer, or showed more compassion, or had been more able to pull things together from different sides and reach some sort of a compatibility or a unity in them. Then I remember, maybe that was a crop that hadn't ripened in me yet. That, say, I should have known at 30 what I knew at 50. Maybe that crop hadn't ripened. And then the other side is how I face my latter decades of life. If I believe there are no seeds that were planted in my previous life that are going to take until I'm, say, 80 or 85 or 90 if I live that long, any seeds that haven't been planted that are going to finally ripen then, it's kind of depressing to me. I like the idea of the hope or the expectation of new crops ripening in my life. Something fresh, something new, something that would be linked to wisdom, or maybe the mystical side of life, what some authors talk about, the wisdom of darkness, knowing there will be losses and some restrictions and some things that come with older age, and say that maybe there are some things that will ripen in my life not in spite of circumstances, but because of circumstances. And for me, that's not only a question of someone who's retired, say, well, it's 50, 60, 70 years old. It's important to think about whether there are more things to come, more ripening to happen. I think it's just as important at 20, 30, or 40 years old. What are things yet to ripen? What learnings are there? What deepening in our heart? And I love the idea that there are things growing in my life right now that maybe I can't even imagine other than reading some of the mystics and sages and saints and seers that lived before and say, oh, why can't I grasp that yet? I can't grasp it yet. Could it be that, as the song that Sinatra popularized, the best is indeed yet to come? At least freshly ripened crops are yet to come. And as I look at what's happening in our country and in the world right now in terms of divisiveness and extremes on one way or the other, I have a sense that very long season crops in people's lives are extremely important for us as a community, for us as a country, for us as a world. So I hope there are expectations living in your life that say, yeah, there are fresh crops to come. And the other question is, what crops have ripened now that were not ripe before? How do I harvest those? How do I live into those? So think about long-term crops. In your life, I am convinced that no matter who you are listening to this, there are crops that are ripening. Have a great day.